Today may look like any other day, yet something unseen inside you is already turning everything upside down. When you opened your eyes this morning, you probably figured, here comes another 24-hour loop, same routine, same grind. But what if I told you that right now, without even realizing it, you just passed a test? Most people wait for life-altering moments, dramatic shakeups, lightning bolt epiphanies. They search the sky for fireworks, while the real magic is quietly unfolding in the sanctuary of their own hearts. What happened to you today wasn't loud or flashy. No trumpets, no grand announcements, no outside validation. Yet something deep within shifted, and I know you felt it. Maybe it was the instant you noticed yourself before reacting the way you always do. Maybe it was the choice to remain calm instead of diving into the surrounding chaos. Or maybe it was simply taking a fuller breath, pausing a beat longer, and sensing an unfamiliar stirring in your chest. None of that was random. Those moments are signals that you're evolving at a level most people never detect. The truth is, transformation rarely arrives with fanfare. The strongest changes usually happen in the silence, between your thoughts, in the space separating who you were yesterday from the person you're becoming today. And as you listen to these words, you're standing right in the middle of one of those invisible turning points that will shape the rest of your life. Ready to discover what really happened? Before we dive deeper, subscribe to the channel. And if you're prepared to embrace this unseen shift occurring inside you, drop this in the comments. I'm evolving beyond my old patterns. Lately, your mind has been testing you, hasn't it? Little frustrations pop up out of nowhere. That familiar anxiety creeps in. Old habits try to lure you back into their cozy chaos. You probably labeled those moments problems, obstacles, hassles, things needing fixing. But what if they weren't problems at all? What if they were the universe's way of checking whether you're ready for the next step? Every time your emotions flared, each trigger that used to send you spiraling, you were handed a choice. Most people don't even see a choice in those moments. They just react the way they always have, following the deeply etched neural pathways of years of repetition. But you did something different, didn't you? Maybe you didn't handle it perfectly. Maybe you still felt the anger rising, the wave of sadness, the claws of fear. Yet somewhere inside that storm, you found a pause. You found a breath. You found a moment where you could watch yourself feeling the emotion instead of being consumed by it. That pause, that breath, that flash of awareness was you passing the test. The hidden challenge wasn't about becoming emotionless or achieving some impossible, permanent calm. It was about building the capacity to witness your own inner weather without being swept away by it, proving to yourself that you can feel deeply while staying centered. And every single time you chose response over reaction, even if just for a split second, you displayed a level of consciousness most people never reach. Think back over the past few days or weeks. How many times did you catch yourself before saying something you'd regret? How often did you step away instead of diving into drama? How many moments did you gently say no when the old version of you tried to take the wheel? Those weren't flukes or lucky breaks. They were proof that something fundamental in the way you process life has changed. Here's the beauty of this test. Perfection was never required, only presence. Presence enough to notice when your emotions try to hijack your awareness. Presence enough to remember you have options. Presence enough to choose growth over comfort, expansion over contraction, love over fear. And you did exactly that. You passed a test you didn't even know you were taking, and now your consciousness has risen to a level where those old emotional storms don't have the same grip. You're still waiting for the big moment, aren't you? The dramatic awakening where everything suddenly makes sense. Clouds part, heavenly choirs sing, and you feel instantly transformed. But genuine awakening rarely works that way. True awakening happens in quiet intervals you hardly notice. Washing dishes when you suddenly realize you haven't been anxious all day. Walking down the street when you observe the critical voice in your head has gone silent. Your awakening didn't show up with fireworks because the deepest transformations never do. They arrive with something far more powerful: peace. A subtle yet unmistakable feeling that something inside has settled into a new frequency. You might not be able to put your finger on exactly what's different, but you know it is. Maybe things that used to bother you just don't. Maybe you're sleeping better, thinking more clearly, or feeling lighter for no apparent reason. Maybe people are telling you that you seem more centered, more present. These are gentle signs that your consciousness has stretched to house a new version of yourself. The old you always looked outside for confirmation, for signs, for proof you were on the right path. But the emerging you doesn't need outside applause because it carries an inner knowing. You've developed an internal compass steering you toward truth, growth, and your highest self. And that compass doesn't need fanfare. It works quietly, consistently guiding you toward choices and experiences that match the person you're becoming. This silent awakening is actually more potent than any flashy enlightenment because it's sustainable. It isn't tied to maintaining a peak emotional state or living up to some impossible spiritual ideal. It's simply the natural result of choosing awareness over autopilot, presence over distraction, growth over stagnation, day after day, until it becomes your new normal. Can you feel it now? The subtle yet undeniable shift in your energy. That's not your imagination. It isn't wishful thinking. It's real evidence you're awakening to a higher version of yourself. And you did it without asking anyone's permission. Your awakening belongs to you, and it's unfolding right now in the most beautiful, quiet way possible. In this very moment, you have access to more creative power than you can fathom. Not when you have everything figured out tomorrow. Not next week when you have more time. Not next year when circumstances change. But right now. This present moment isn't just where life is. It's where life is made. And today, you finally understood that truth like never before. Most people spend their lives oscillating between past and future, replaying old stories and reliving old wounds, or projecting themselves into an imagined future where things will finally get better. But transformation doesn't happen in the past. It's already written. And it doesn't happen in the future. It hasn't arrived yet. It can only happen now, in this timeless instant where your consciousness meets reality. Think of the most powerful moments in your life, the times you felt most alive, most connected, most yourself. Where were you in those moments? You weren't worrying about yesterday's problems or tomorrow's concerns. You were fully present, wide open to the richness of what was right in front of you. That presence is your superpower, and today, you remembered how to access it. When you are truly present, you stop being a victim of your circumstances and become a conscious creator of your experience. You stop reacting from old programming and start responding from fresh awareness. You stop being pushed and pulled by external forces and begin moving from an inner center nothing can shake. The magic of presence isn't that it makes everything perfect. It makes everything workable. From that centered awareness, you can face anything that arises. You can feel every feeling that needs to be felt without being destroyed by it. Think every thought that needs to be thought without being consumed by it. And take every action that needs to be taken from clarity instead of chaos. That's why today feels different. Even if you can't fully explain how, you've spent more time in the present moment than you have in months, maybe years. And from that present moment awareness, you started creating a new reality instead of just repeating the old one. How does it feel to finally be awake in your own life? I want you to know why today matters so much. Your body has been living in the past, your mind constantly projecting into the future. But your soul, your true essence, can exist only in the present. And today, maybe for the first time in a long while, you managed to line all three up on the same timeline. You pulled your body out of its habitual past patterns, called your mind back from its future fantasies, and met yourself fully in the now. Your body had been carrying the emotional residue of everything that's happened so far. Every disappointment, every hurt, every stress, creating a biochemical addiction to familiar feelings. It was used to living in states of anxiety, frustration, or sadness because those emotions felt predictable and therefore safe. But today, something shifted. Today, you chose to feel something new. Meanwhile, your mind had been busy projecting itself into imaginary futures, rolling out detailed scenarios about what could happen, what might go wrong, what you'd need to prepare for. All that mental activity kept you from being available to the creative possibilities present right now. Today, you began catching your mind in those future projections and gently called it back to the present. When your body stops living in the past and your mind stops living in the future, something miraculous happens. You become fully present. And with that presence comes access to unlimited creative potential. You're no longer bound by the limitations of your past experiences or the fears of imagined futures. From this moment forward, you're free to create something entirely new. That's why today feels so different. You've had flashes of clarity that seem to come out of nowhere. Solutions to old problems suddenly appeared obvious. Those insights didn't come from your past knowledge or your future planning. They came from the infinite intelligence available in the present. The beauty of this alignment is that it gets easier with practice. Every time you choose presence over your past patterns, awareness over automatic reactions, you strengthen your ability to live from this centered place. You're training your body to be comfortable with new emotions and your mind to be comfortable not knowing what comes next. Today, you prove to yourself that you don't have to be a victim of your conditioning. You don't have to repeat the same emotional loops just because they're familiar. You have the power to step out of the past, stop projecting into the future, and create something beautiful from the raw materials of this moment. That power is always right here, right now, available to you. Authenticity isn't only about being honest with others. It's about being honest with yourself. And in a world constantly telling you who to be, that honesty is a revolutionary act. Today, even when no one was watching, even when it would have been easier to conform, you took a stand for your authentic self. And this quiet rebellion against inauthenticity is reshaping your entire reality. For years, you played the character you thought the world wanted to see. A version of yourself that felt safer, more acceptable, more likely to win approval. But that performance was exhausting, wasn't it? It required constant vigilance, endless adaptation, perpetual suppression of your true thoughts and feelings. Today, something inside you said, enough. Maybe it was a small moment. You spoke up when you would have stayed silent, said no where you usually say yes, voiced an unpopular opinion, or chose your well-being over others' expectations. Those may seem like small acts, yet they signify a massive shift in how you choose to show up in the world. Authenticity isn't about being perfect or having it all figured out. It's about being real about where you are, honest about what you feel, and brave enough to let that truth guide your choices. It's about granting yourself permission to be human, to make mistakes, to not have all the answers, and still know you're worthy of love and respect. When you choose authenticity, you stop trying to manage how others perceive you and focus on how you want to experience yourself. You quit contorting into impossible shapes to fit spaces never meant for you, and start creating spaces where you can be wholly yourself. This shift changes not only your relationship with yourself, but with everyone and everything around you. The people meant to be in your life will love you more, not less, for being real. The opportunities meant for you open up when you stop pretending to be someone else. The life meant for you becomes available when you stop living someone else's vision. Today, you stood up for your authentic self, and that stand sent ripples through the fabric of your reality. You declared you're done performing and ready to live. How does it feel to finally give yourself permission to be exactly who you are? Something inside you is shifting from survival mode to creation mode, and that change means everything. Most of your life you've been reacting to circumstances, adjusting to situations, making the best of whatever life handed you. But today, you heard a different voice, a revolutionary whisper from your soul. Create. And you listened. This isn't about positive thinking tricks, manifestation hacks, or quick fix promises. It's about recognizing yourself as a conscious co-creator of your reality. You're not a passive recipient of what happens to you. Through your choices, energy, focus, and intention, you actively shape what happens for you. The old version of you waited for life to happen and then responded. The emerging version understands life happens through you, not to you. Every thought you think, feeling you feel, choice you make, contributes to the reality you experience. Today, you began taking responsibility for that creative power like never before. You've probably noticed that everything feels heavy and hard when you're stuck in survival mode, like you're swimming against a current controlled by forces beyond you. But when you shift into creation mode, everything grows lighter and more fluid. You start seeing possibilities instead of problems, feeling excitement about what you can create, rather than anxiety about what could go wrong. You can't force or fake this shift. It happens naturally when you align with your true nature as a creative being. It happens when you stop trying to control everything and trust your ability to respond creatively to whatever arises. It happens when you loosen your grip on how things should be and open yourself to what wants to emerge. The call to create doesn't always show up as a grand vision or a crystal clear plan. Sometimes it's a subtle nudge to try something new, take a different route, initiate a difficult conversation, make a change you've postponed. Today, instead of dismissing those impulses as impractical or unrealistic, you started listening. That is sacred work. You're learning to trust the creative intelligence flowing through you. You're learning to act from inspiration instead of obligation, from possibility instead of limitation, from love instead of fear. And every time you choose creation over repetition, you bring something beautiful and unique into the world that couldn't exist without you. You keep looking for external confirmation that you're on the right track, yet the deepest rewards of transformation are entirely internal and often go unnoticed by the outer world. Today, you may not have received any congratulations, recognition, or visible proof that something significant happened. But inside, everything changed, and that inner shift is worth more than any applause. Resisting your old patterns doesn't yield an instant trophy. There's no certificate for choosing presence over reactivity, or for keeping your center in chaos. There's no public accolade for doing the inner work no one else can see. But you gain something far more valuable: peace. That subtle lightness you feel, that clarity that seems to come from nowhere, that deeper sense of connection to yourself and life. That is the authentic reward for doing the work that matters most. You're being compensated with an upgraded relationship with yourself, and that relationship underpins everything in your life. The world responds to who you truly are, not to the persona you project. So as you align more closely with your authentic, present self, the world begins to mirror that back to you. But it unfolds gradually, subtly, in ways easy to miss if you're only searching for dramatic shifts. Notice how you breathe differently today, how there seems to be more space between your thoughts, how conflicts that once spiraled now feel manageable, how you're no longer carrying the same emotional weight you were days ago. These aren't small changes. They're evidence of a fundamental shift in your frequency. The reward has already begun. In the calm of your mind, the openness of your heart, the relaxation of your nervous system, the increased capacity to handle whatever life brings without losing yourself in the process. Can you feel how much stronger you are when you're no longer fighting your own emotions? I want to remind you of something that will change the way you see today forever. You don't have to wait for your external circumstances to change before you become the person you want to be. You change first, and then your outer reality rearranges itself to match your new internal state. Even if the outside world hasn't caught up yet, you've become the change you were waiting for. Most people have it backwards. They think they need the new job before they can feel successful, the relationship before they can feel loved, perfect conditions before they can feel at peace. But transformation works the other way around. You must embody the person who naturally attracts success before success arrives. You must feel worthy of love before love comes. You must embody peace before peaceful circumstances appear. Today, you stopped waiting for permission from the outside world to be who you really are. You stopped waiting for everything to be perfect before you could feel good. You stopped postponing your joy, your peace, your sense of purpose to some future moment when everything lines up. Instead, you chose to embody the energy of the person you want to be, right here, right now, regardless of what's happening around you. That's the most powerful thing you can do, because your external reality will always reflect your internal state. When you change your inner frequency, your outer experience has no choice but to rearrange itself accordingly. That's not magic, it's physics. Energy always seeks to align with energy of a similar vibration. The beauty of being the change is that it's completely within your control. You can't control what others do. You can't control what happens in the world. You can't control timing or circumstances or thousands of other variables. But you can always control who you choose to be in this moment. And when you consistently choose to be the person you want to become, reality starts cooperating with that choice. You've probably already noticed subtle differences. People responding to you differently. Opportunities appearing that weren't there before. Solutions to old problems materializing. Those aren't coincidences. They're the natural consequences of your energy field reorganizing itself around a new identity. The old you tried to change life from the outside in. The new you understands all meaningful change happens from the inside out. Today, you stopped being a victim of circumstances and became a conscious creator of your experience. You realized you don't need anything but yourself to live differently. That is your power. That is your gift. That is how you transform your world, by transforming yourself first and trusting that everything else will follow. Now comes the beautiful work of integrating this new version of you into daily life. You've awakened to a higher level of consciousness, passed tests you didn't even know existed, unearthed creative powers you'd forgotten. But awakening is only the beginning. Integration is where real transformation takes place, and it starts right now. Integration means honoring today's insights not as pretty ideas, but as new operating principles for your life. It means making choices aligned with this expanded version of yourself, even when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. It means trusting the wisdom that arises from your own experience, instead of slipping back into old patterns. The new you doesn't need to prove anything to anyone, or justify your evolution to people still operating from the consciousness you've outgrown. Your job isn't to convince others you've changed. Your job is to live from the truth of who you are and let that truth speak for itself. This integration process requires patience with yourself as you learn to navigate the world from this new inner frequency. There will be moments when you slip back into old patterns, and that's perfectly normal. Growth isn't a straight line. It's a spiral where you revisit the same themes at deeper levels until they're completely resolved. The key is to show yourself the same compassion you'd offer a dear friend going through a major life transition. Be gentle as you learn new ways of being. Celebrate the small victories. Forgive the temporary setbacks. Remember, every moment offers a fresh opportunity to choose growth over comfort, expansion over contraction, love over fear. You passed the test not because you conquered something outside of you, but because you chose yourself. Your growth over familiarity, your truth over others' expectations, your authentic self over the role you thought you had to play. That choice has set in motion a chain of events that will keep unfolding in ways you can't yet imagine. The beauty of this journey is that it's entirely yours. No one can take it from you, and no one can do it for you. You are the author of your own transformation, and today, you wrote a new chapter. Today wasn't just another day. It was a quiet revolution, a gentle awakening, an invisible reset that completely changed who you are and how you exist in the world. While everyone else sleepwalked through their routines, you were awake. While others reacted from old programming, you responded from fresh awareness. While everyone waited for something outside themselves to change, you became the change. By choosing presence over reactivity, authenticity over performance, creation over repetition, you passed a test you didn't even know was happening. You discovered transformation doesn't require fireworks or drama, only the courage to be fully present with what is, and the wisdom to choose growth in every moment. The person who woke up this morning is not the same person listening to these words now. You've evolved at the cellular level, shifted energetically, and awakened in consciousness. And this is just the beginning. You now know you have the power to create your reality from the inside out. And the more you trust that power, the stronger it becomes. Today, you remembered who you really are. Tomorrow, you get to live from that truth. The world is waiting for what you're about to create.